Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a truth that might shake the very foundation of how you've been taught to reacting. No one can make you angry unless you give them permission. In a world full of noise, chaos, and clashing egos, how do you rise above it all? How do you walk through fire and come out untouched? How do you move through a crowd of critics and fools and remain composed, unbothered, even powerful? The greatest battlefield you will ever face is not in the office, not in the streets, and not even among those who oppose you. It is inside your own mind. And until you gain dominion over that territory, your thoughts, your emotions, your impulses, you will always be at the mercy of the world around you. You see, anger does not come from what others say or do. It comes from how you choose to interpret what they say or do. The words themselves are powerless. The gestures, the tone, the disrespect. None of it holds any real weight until you give it meaning. And that meaning, that is something you assign. That is something you control. The moment you grasp that truth, you reclaim all your power. Too many people walk around handing their emotional reins to anyone with an opinion. Someone cuts them off in traffic. They explode. A colleague offers a criticism. They stew for hours. A family member speaks out of turn. They carry it for days. But the person who rules their inner world doesn't react like this. They pause, they observe. They choose. Choice is the most powerful gift you possess. But you must practice it. It doesn't come automatically. It comes from conditioning your mind, daily deliberately, to rise above your triggers. It comes from studying your thoughts like a scientist, asking, why did this bother me? What fear or insecurity did it poke? Is this a wound that needs healing or a moment I can release? You become untouchable not by building walls, but by building wisdom. You become calm not because the world stops shouting, but because you stop letting its noise dictate your peace. When you dominate your inner world, insults become data, not daggers. Disrespect becomes dust, not dynamite. And opinions become passing clouds, not storms. You must treat your mind like a temple, not a dumping ground. Feed it strong thoughts. Guard it from garbage. Direct it with clarity. And most importantly, recognize that every time you resist the urge to lash out, you're not just avoiding conflict. You're building character. You're forging steel where there was once softness. You're choosing mastery over misery. The person who can remain unmoved in the face of ignorance, undisturbed in the presence of provocation, and unshaken when the world tests them. That person is not weak. That person is disciplined. That person is dangerous in the best way, because nothing and no one owns them. They own themselves. And that, my friend, is the beginning of all true power. There comes a moment in your growth where you realize not every battle is yours to fight, and not every opinion is worth your attention. That moment is a turning point, a shift from reactive living to intentional living. It's when you adopt what I call the law of indifference, a mental stance where only what truly matters gets your energy, and everything else is simply background noise. Now, let me be clear. Indifference is not weakness. It is not apathy. It is not pretending not to care while quietly stewing on the inside. No, true indifference is strength refined. It is the art of looking chaos in the eye and choosing not to dance with it. It is the decision to hold your peace when the world invites you to war over things that hold no value. People will try you. They will misunderstand you, speak your name without knowing your story, and throw their projections onto you like paint on a blank wall. And when they do, you have a choice, a step into their storm or stand in your calm. Indifference says, I see what's happening. I acknowledge it, and I choose to keep walking. This mindset does not come naturally. It is forged, because everything in this world is designed to pull a reaction from you. Social media thrives on outrage. Gossip begs for your judgment. Insecurity in others tries to provoke your validation or defense. But once you understand that your attention is the most valuable currency you own, you begin to spend it wisely. Think of your energy like a vault. Every time you respond to nonsense, you make a withdrawal. Every time you argue with someone who's already committed to misunderstanding you, you go into emotional depth. But when you practice indifference, you protect your vault. You guard your focus. You remain rich in peace, wealthy in clarity, and full in purpose. The truth is, some things are simply not worth your fire. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every slight needs a confrontation. And not every fool deserves an audience. When you rise in purpose, you begin to feel the weight of your time and attention. And you become unwilling to waste either on what does not elevate you. Indifference is not cold. It's wise. It says, I do not need to be right. I do not need to be heard. I need only to protect what matters most, my mission, my peace, and my direction. It is the posture of someone who understands that silence is sometimes the loudest message and walking away is sometimes the strongest move. So when they talk, let them talk. When they judge, let them judge. While they're distracted by your shadow, you'll be too busy chasing the light. That is the essence of indifference. Not passive existence, but powerful focus. Unbothered, unshaken, unavailable to the games of the small-minded. Because when you truly understand who you are and where you're going, the noise around you becomes irrelevant. And that is when nothing can touch you. There's a subtle but critical difference between reacting and responding. And that difference is the line between weakness and strength, chaos and control, regret and respect. Most people live in reaction. They are walking nerve endings, easily triggered, quick to speak, faster to lash out, and always surprised when damage is left in their wake. But the person who learns to respond instead of react steps into a higher realm of power. Because they no longer give the world control over their inner state. Reaction is impulsive. It is raw emotion dressed up as urgency. It's the knee-jerk comment, the raised voice, is definite, the emotional outburst that feels good in the moment but leaves destruction behind. Reacting is what happens when your emotions take the wheel and your wisdom is locked in the trunk. It's letting the moment decide for you. Your words, your tone, your outcome. But responding. Responding is deliberate. It's measured. It's thoughtful. It's calm. It's the act of pausing before the punch. It's breathing before the words leave your lips. It's asking yourself, what outcome do I actually want here? And then choosing your behavior, not based on how you feel in the moment, but based on who you've decided to become. Because the truth is, anyone can react. It takes no discipline to yell back. It takes no character to match energy with ignorance, but to respond, to remain calm in the storm, to speak with clarity when provoked, to choose silence when rage is knocking on your door. That requires self-mastery. You must train for this. It doesn't come naturally. It comes from conscious repetition, from rewiring your patterns, from choosing 10 seconds of silence over 10 minutes of regret. You learn to delay your response just long enough for reason to rise above emotion. You ask yourself, is this response rooted in power or insecurity? Will it create peace or more pain? Am I acting or simply reacting? You cannot control how others behave, but you can always control what you do next. That is where your freedom lies. That is where your dignity lies. When you choose to respond, you remain the author of the moment. When you react, you hand the pen to someone else, and they write your story in their ink. People who react quickly often feel strong in the moment, but carry shame afterward. People who respond may feel tension in the moment, but they carry pride later, because they stayed in alignment with who they're becoming. They didn't betray their higher self for a fleeting emotional victory. Make this your mission to be unshakable in situations that once triggered you. To respond from principle, not from pressure. To speak only when your words are stronger than your silence. To rise above the temptation to match immaturity with your own. When you respond, you conserve energy. You preserve relationships. You increase respect. You make better decisions. And most of all, you prove to yourself that you are no longer controlled by impulse, but led by intention. That is power. That is presence. That is the mark of someone who leads their life, not someone who is led by life. Your mind is your command center. It is the control tower of your life. Every thought you think, every belief you adopt, every emotion you dwell in. It all flows from what you allow through its gates. And yet, Most people treat their mind like an open hallway, letting anything and anyone walk in, track dirt on the floor, and rearrange the furniture. You would never leave the front door of your home wide open for strangers to enter at will. So why do it with your thoughts? Why allow negativity, doubt, jealousy, gossip, and fear to stroll into your consciousness like they belong there? If you want peace, power, and purpose in your life, you must begin with your thoughts. You must become ruthless about what you allow into your inner world, because everything you allow in, every headline you consume, every complaint you entertain, every toxic conversation you tolerate, shapes what grows inside you. Your mind is fertile soil, and whatever is planted there, whether by you or by others, will take root. If you allow anger and offense in, they will grow. If you allow comparison and insecurity in, they will multiply. But if you protect your mental garden with discipline and plant seeds of focus, strength, and clarity, then only those can flourish. You must decide moment by moment what deserves access to your attention. Not every voice deserves to be heard. Not every opinion deserves to be internalized. Not every emotion deserves to be fed. This is not about arrogance. It is about stewardship. You have been entrusted with a mind capable of incredible creativity, resilience, and vision. But it only performs at its best when it's not cluttered with noise. You must become intentional about your inputs. What you read, what you watch, who you spend time with, who you listen to, what conversations you entertain. Every one of these is a doorway, and every one is either strengthening your inner world or poisoning it. There are people who walk into your life like mental thieves. They don't rob your wallet. They rob your clarity. They steal your peace. They plant seeds of doubt, and they leave you confused, angry, or distracted. You must learn to spot them, and more importantly, to shut the gate before they step foot inside. And sometimes it's not other people, it's your own habits, your own unguarded scrolling, your own self-talk. You must be just as vigilant with yourself. If you wouldn't let someone speak to your loved one with disrespect, don't let your inner voice do the same to you. Guarding your mind isn't a one-time act. It's a daily discipline. It's choosing to step back before reacting. It's deciding to unplug when the noise gets too loud. It's learning to say no to conversations, media, and distractions that do not build the life you want to live. There is no peace without protection. There is no focus without filtering. There is no greatness without mental discipline. So stand watch, stand tall, and remember, every time you say no to something unworthy of your mind, you're saying yes to becoming the person you're destined to be. Because the mind you guard today becomes the life you lead tomorrow. There comes a point in your life when you must rise above the noise, the distractions, and the shallow goals that once kept you busy but never made you fulfilled. That point is the moment you define your higher mission, your purpose, your reason for being, your personal code that demands more from you than just getting by. Most people are agitated, offended, and easily thrown off track because they're not on track to begin with. They're aimless. They're floating. And when you don't know where you're going, every little inconvenience feels like a personal attack. Every comment feels like a confrontation. Every delay feels like a defeat. But once you lock into a mission larger than yourself, all of that loses its power over you. Your higher mission is not a job title. It's not a paycheck. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about living your life in such a way that you know, deep in your core, you are moving with purpose. That every day you rise, you are rising for something. You are chasing an idea, a vision, a standard that forces you to become more than who you were yesterday. And once that mission becomes clear to you, the petty things that used to bother you will start to look laughable. Why would a warrior argue with a heckler while heading into battle? Why would a builder waste time debating with someone who's never laid a brick? You no longer feel the need to defend yourself because you are too focused on building something that speaks for you. Your mission gives you focus. It becomes your filter. When someone tries to trigger you, ask, does this move me closer to what I'm building? If the answer is no, you don't engage. When life throws you a challenge, you ask, what does my mission demand of me in this moment? And then you act accordingly. When you serve your mission relentlessly, you stop living by emotion and start living intention. You begin to take control of your time, your energy, your priorities. You learn to say no, not because you're selfish, but because you are committed. Committed to something greater than comfort, greater than ego. You're greater than popularity or applause. You're no longer seduced by short-term feelings because you're loyal to long-term impact. And let me tell you something vital. A strong mission doesn't just keep you moving forward. It keeps you unbothered, because it's very hard to be offended when you're too busy becoming. Is definite it's nearly impossible to get pulled into drama when your life is already full of direction. And it's laughable to be dragged into meaningless battles when you're focused on a war that actually matters. When you live for something bigger than yourself, your patience increases, your tolerance for nonsense decreases, and your emotional discipline grows like steel. You gain clarity. You speak with intention. You act with precision, because you no longer need to prove anything. You are walking proof of what you believe. So define it, lock into it, build your life around it. Let your mission be the reason you get up, the reason you stay calm, the reason you walk away, the reason you keep going even when no one's watching. Let it be the fire that makes every insult irrelevant, every delay insignificant, and every setback just a just of how deeply you believe in what you're doing. Because when your life is driven by a mission, the world stops shaking you and starts respecting you. In conclusion, to never get angry or bothered by anyone isn't about being passive. It's about being powerful. Powerful enough to choose your response. Powerful enough to walk away. Powerful enough to stay calm when others lose their minds, and powerful enough to live on your own terms. So when the world pushes, smile. When someone tries to rattle you, remain still, because the strongest person in the room is never the loudest. It's the one who cannot be shaken. Thank you.